Hello and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So it's that time of month again. No, not that time of month. It's time for the currently inked videos, and I have again a number of currently inked pens that I have been using throughout the month of November. Now, if you've watched my previous months for September and October, you will have realised that I had around 30 and 40 pens inked up, and I did actually say that I wanted to try and reduce that, and I think ideally I wanted to get down to 15, preferably 20 pens inked up, and I guess we'll see how I did for the month. So there's a little story that I want to actually tell you, and this is something that I've been noticing more of recently, certainly in my trait of things. So if I decide I don't want to buy any more pens, or I don't need more pens, I tell myself I don't need any more pens, and then I end up buying more pens. I seem to be doing the complete opposite. If I say I need to buy more pens, or I need to buy this pen, I actually start to think long and hard about it. There is a 50-50 chance, 50% chance that I will buy that pen or buy more pens, and a 50% chance that I won't. But I seem to have a better success rate by doing the opposite. So I said last month I wanted to ink up less pens. So I think you can kind of understand where I'm going to be going with this. I didn't ink up less pens, I inked up more pens. And I think this is, I don't know, going to be an interesting psychology problem, that it's almost that I need to do the opposite of what I'm thinking. So I have... Well, let's start this. I had, in the last month, 55 pens inked up. Before I sat down to do this video, I had 55 pens inked up. What on earth was I thinking? Like, this isn't the first month I've hit 55. I've hit 55 pens inked up probably for 2 or 3 months this year, I would say. But at the end of the day, like, I tend to have 30 to 40 pens inked up. When I hit 55 pens inked up, that tends to be a little bit of a culture shock, in somebody grabbing me by the shoulders and shaking me saying, seriously, you need to clean some pens. So I did just that. So here today, I'm only going to show you 30 pens. The other pens are currently being cleaned or are semi-cleaned. But these are the pens that I'm going to show you today. So 30 pens. So I have 3 pen trays of 10 pens. Now, I've had a couple of new pens this month, and I wasn't really anticipating either of those pens, but I picked them up for a number of good reasons. So I think left to right, we have the Pilot Vanishing Point Crimson Sunrise, the Montegrappa Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove, the Armando Simoni Club Bologna Extra Wild Side, the Armando Simoni Club Bologna Extra Arco Verde, the Atelier Lusso Andromeda King Cobra, the Atelier Lusso Carina Black Ice, the Atelier Lusso Andromeda Tectonic Seas, the Atelier Lusso Andromeda Hurricane, the Leonardo Oficina Italiana Mediterraneo, and the Scribble 2 Noble Green. So let's look at the first pen. So this is a Pilot Vanishing Point, and this is the Crimson Sunrise. And this is a pen that is mostly sold out. You can still find it here and there. And this was an unplanned pen purchase for me. I decided that a while ago, I already have a Vanishing Point, and I have an extra fine nib, or Western extra fine. It's actually a Pilot fine. And as much as I like it, I can't write letters with it. Like, I can address envelopes, but that's about it. So I decided I would need a broad nib, and ideally I'd love to get the Namiki Raden versions, but I don't seem to be able to pick many of those up, and the ones I can pick up are not with a broad nib. This one was actually going for quite a good price, and it had a broad nib in it, and it was the last one. So I decided to snap this one up. I like the colour of it, and I can always swap out the nibs later if I need to. So you can see here that it's a lovely, stunning sort of gradient there going on, but really between a red and an orange type hue there. And the Vanishing Point has the retractable nib, and it writes very broad, this pen, and I really so far I have liked it. It's currently inked up with a new ink that I got recently. It's a Diamine ink, a Cult Pens exclusive ink, Diamine Robert, which is a red ink that sheens a more greeny gold. So I really like that ink combination there. So I think that's a good one. The next pen was a pen also that I really hadn't anticipated getting. But when Brian Goulet showed off this pen, this is the Montegrappa Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove. And I've done a video review and unboxing of this already, but you can see here, it's an absolutely stunning pen. And I seriously thought about waiting until the new year, because I really didn't want to buy any more pens until the new year. But this pen is a limited edition exclusive to Goulet pens. It's a limited run of 80 pens, so that's 80 pens worldwide. And although this material has been done before by Montegrappa, in I think it's the Extra Otto, it had a silver section, and this one has a celluloid section here. So like this is like here you would have a silver section. So I really liked the idea of this having a celluloid section on the pen. I got this in a medium nib, and I have this inked up at the moment with Diamine Earl Grey. And to be honest, I think this is one of the main probably inks I will ever use in this pen. I think the grey matches quite nicely with the Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove, and I really do like how it writes. So I probably won't actually change the ink in this pen. I think I will just flush it out and then re-ink with the same ink again. So the next pen is the Armando Simone Club Bologna Extra Wild Side, and this I purchased a number of months ago, and I guess like with a lot of my pens, they tend not to actually be pens that I really had on my wish list or horizon. These tend to be a lot impulse purchases, and I've been liking my Arco Brown for a while, and I suddenly decided I would get the Arco Verde when it came out, but then just prior to that, this came up with a really good deal at Chatterley Luxuries. So I decided to buy this from Bryant at Chatterley, and it's a lovely. It's using the Omas Wildside celluloid, and it's just a stunning material. These do have a number 8 size nib on them, but it's a lovely writer of a nib. And I really do like how these write. So that's been another pen that I have inked up at the moment, and that is inked up with I did have Akamon Bezood and Woodgrown in, but I've had those in a couple of my Arco Verdes. So I decided to change it, and I decided to put in Akamon Denaweg Gron, which is a little bit more of a muted green, a bluey green. So that I've been writing with and had inked up this month. I also have the Arco Verde here as well, and these Arco Verdes are stunning. This is the one with the gold trim, and again, a number 8 size nib. The pen really is mesmerizing when you see that Arco material there just shine against the light. It's really nice pen. And it is an oversized pen as well, you can see here in terms of the size of my hand. And this is inked up, as I mentioned, Akerman Bazuden Woodgrawn. And I've been liking a lot of Akerman inks lately. And this has a number 8 size gold nib there, and you can see it in the size of my hand there. It's actually quite a large pen as it is unposted. But I love how these Magic Flex nibs write in the Armando Simone Club Bologna Extras. They are really nice nibs. When you get a nib that writes good, and to be honest, I only had one nib that didn't write well out of the box, which was originally my Arco Brown, which I actually managed to get replaced. But this is a pen, pretty much, actually both these pens I have inked up most of the time. And then we have this one, and this is the Atelier Lusa King Cobra. And this is a lovely pen. I've done an unboxing video of this. A review video will be coming very soon. I've just finished recording that. So, but you can see here, this is a lovely material. And because of the lovely gold or bronzy, silvery, shimmery chatoyance going on there, I have this inked up with Diamine Skull and Roses, which is a blue ink that sheens more of a reddish colour, a pinky purpley red, and it's a lovely writer as well. It's a broad nib that I have on here. It's a Joro steel nib, but it is, I find, a really good writing nib, and I find that all of the Joro nibs are really good writers. I really do like them. They are firm nibs because they're steel nibs, but they are very smooth, and I've got these all in broad nibs, my Atelier Luso pens, because I really do like those broad nibs. I might actually try and put some mediums or stubs in those at some point though, but for the time being, I do like the broad nibs. And then we have the Atelier Luso Carina Black Ice, and this is a lovely marble effect going on. And you'll see here that it has some black in it, and obviously the white is the ice as well. But there's lots of browns and orangey type swirls in that material as well, and so that's another pen that I have inked up. Now, because of the orangey brown swirls, I decided I don't normally do black inks, and well, you can't really get a white fountain pen ink, so I decided from the outset that I'd probably actually would ink this up with an orange ink. So I chose a Diamine Coral, and it's a lovely ink, but you can see here the pen's a good size, so I really do love these pens from Eric at Atelier Luso. They are really good. And then I also have the Atelier Luso Andromeda, and this is the Tectonic Seas. And again, I've shown this off in a unboxing video, but you can see here, this really is a lovely sort of topographical, look at the earth type approach. And you can see here, that white, it's almost like the chatoyance and level of depth going on there, almost like clouds hovering above the earth. So this is a really lovely pen, and I keep wanting to put Diamine Marine in here, but for the time being, I've actually got Diamine Marine in a Carina at the moment. But in this one, I actually have Akerman Dutch Masters Cerulean Blur, and it's a nice blue ink. But I might try and put Diamine Marine in there at some point if I do unink the Carina that it's in. And then I also have this Andromeda from Atelier Luso. This was my first Andromeda that I picked up. And this is the. It didn't actually have a name, so I've actually named it the Hurricane, because it has a lot of swirls going on here, and I really think again it's another little bit more of a topographical look down at say the Earth. But I like this. It has a broad Joro nib on it, and these are all cartridge converters. But in this one, I have it inked up with another sheening ink. I have it inked up with the Blackstone Barrier Reef, which isn't as sheening as some of the other inks, but it's a sheening ink that I do like. So I have that inked up. And then we have this one, which is the Leonardo Oficina Italiana Mediterraneo, and I picked this up at the London pen show. So I picked that up, was at the beginning of October, and this is a lovely piston filling pen. I really do love that material. It's the material that's used here has been used on a number of other pens by Montegrappa and Delta in the past, but it's a really nice size, a really nice material on the pen, and this is inked up with a light blue ink, and this is inked up with Robert Oyster Australian Sky Blue. And this is a medium nib in this pen, a 14 karat gold nib. But you can just see there that material just absolutely shines. The deltas that were in this material previously, I believe, were the Delta Fantasia. They had a number of colours. And then there's also the Montegrappa Extra 1930 as well in that colour. So it's been used by a number of different pen manufacturers. And then there's this pen, and this pen I have been writing with the most in this past month because I love how the nib writes. The pen is quite a nice pen to look at. It's not sort of the best looking pen, but it's not the worst looking pen either. I think the material, there's lots of chatoyance going on in there, in that body and in the cap. But the thing that really, really makes this pen beautiful for me is that it has a 14 karat flex nib here, and that nib is actually the same nib that Omos used to use, designated the OM81 nib, and it's a 14 karat flex nib. It's a medium nib that I have this in, but it's got a lot of bounce to it. It's got a lot of flex to it as well, and it actually flexes as much, if not slightly more, I would say, than my Pilot Custom 823 with an FA nib. But it actually flexes a lot more easier. Now, I have heard people say that they have sprung the tines on their pens. I have not done that yet, and I hope that I don't, but it might be something that will happen eventually, but I try not to push the pens too much whilst I'm writing with them, and I really love this pen. I absolutely love how it writes. So now on to the next 10 pens. So I also have been writing with the Visconti Opera Silver Dust, and this has a 1.3mm stub nib, and it is a lovely nib. If I zoom in there a little bit, I should be able to see it a little bit more. But it's a lovely stub nib. It's actually a very crisp stub. So almost like a crisp metallic, but I love that. It's a really, really good writer, and you can see there that silver dust going around the pen. And I have that inked up at the moment with Montblanc Oyster Grey. So that's been a pen I've started to write with a little bit, not massively, but I want to get into writing more with that in the near future, because I do like that stub nib. And I've not written with a huge amount of stub nibs this past month, not to what I normally would do. And then we have the Visconti Homo Sapiens Caput Mundy, and this is a lovely pen I picked up a few years ago. I do like the Homo Sapien range of pens. This is called the Red Wine in North America. But the difference with the North American editions is you don't have this bronze trim. You have a palladium trim, I believe, or a ruthenium trim, so a dark trim. But this I got with a medium nib from Stefano at Stilograph Corsani a couple of years ago. And I bought this actually with my Corsani 90 at the time. And I really do love this. It's a super wet nib. And I love how it writes. I love the size and the weight of the pen in my hand. It's just a really good size for me. More recently, I picked up, I think it was in August, I picked up the Opera Masters here, the Corvina and the Stardust. So this is the Corvina. I did a review, an unboxing review of these. This came from Chris at Truffet. These are Truffet exclusives. There are still some available, so if you want them, pick them up whilst you can, because they won't last forever. But these are really lovely pens. I do love the Opera Master style of pens, and I think these are a really, really good size. So and weight as well. So these I decided that I would pick up with 1.3mm stub nibs. So I have that. The ink in this one is Visconti Bordeaux. And then actually the ink in the cap at Mundy is Akkerman Dutch Master Steenrode van Mermeer. And then we have the Silver Dust here as well, which is the other Truffet exclusive. And this is, again, a lovely pen. I absolutely love this Stardust that's going on here. It really is a lovely, lovely pen. I don't know that you could get much more of a Stardust kind of effect on a pen, because this is so good. And it has the ruthenium trim, or the dark trim on it. And you can see here, again, I got this with a 1.3mm stub. And in terms of size, you can see there, it's a large pen. It comes in around about 60 grams inked up. But again, it's a pen that I do like to write with. And that, again, is inked up with Visconti Bordeaux that came with the pen. And that is an ink that I do like. It's actually a lovely red. And then I have this pen, and I haven't written with this pen for some time now. This is the Visconti Istos Arachnus, and this has a medium nib. And it's called the Istos Arachnus because it basically is a spider pen. And I've done a review on this one as well in the past. But it has this lovely spider's web overlay. And then you'll see, just as you turn it, and there's the spider. So if you don't like spiders, or if you really have a fear of spiders, then this pen probably is not for you. But for me, I like it. It's a power vac filler. It's got a medium nib. It writes very, very wet. And I have this inked up with another Ackerman ink. And this is Ackerman Dutch Masters Vermeers Cobalt Bleu, which is a new Ackerman ink that I have purchased, and I wanted to give that ink a try because I really hadn't tried that ink, and it's a blue-black ink. It's quite a nice ink. And then there's the Visconti Belgica, and this was a pen that I had inked up a lot, and I hadn't inked up much recently and used. And this is a pen that I really don't want to unink or clean out, because this is a pen that writes beautifully. It's an 18 karat gold nib. It's a broad nib, and it's so smooth and juicy wet. And it has this lovely gold overlay to the pen that you can see there. It's just a beautiful pen. And as I said, it's an 18 karat nib. It's not only is it a power vac filler, but it's also a double reservoir as well. And again, size-wise in my hands, it's actually quite good. And the ink that I have inked up here is Ackerman Dutch Masters Cerulean Bleu Van Meer. and I think I might. At one point, I did have Diamine Bilberry inked up, and I think I did like that more. So I will probably clean that out very soon and actually put the Diamine Bilberry in there instead. And then we have the Visconti Homo Sapiens Bronze Swirl here, and again, like, this is a pen that I do love a lot. You can see here this lovely bronze or goldy swirl pattern, ribbon pattern that's going on there in the body, and an ivory-like effect going on in the cap there. It's a Homo Sapiens pen. It's a good weight, it's a good size, and I got this with a 1.3mm stub, and I really, again, absolutely love this pen. This pen is inked up with Robert Oyster Cafe Crema, and that really, I find, is the perfect ink for that pen. And again, it's probably an ink that I will never change. That pen will always be inked up with that ink because it's just a perfect match for me. And I've been trying to give a little bit more love to my Visconti Khalid Voyagers. So this one here is the Visconti Khalid Voyager Forest Green, and it's a lovely pattern going on here. Look at that Khalid pattern going on. It's beautifully done, and it's in a lovely green, almost like a Montblanc Irish green. And these are cartridge converters. It came with a fine nib. Now, I don't normally do fines. It's a little bit too fine for me, but it's a 14 karat gold nib, and it's quite a firm nib. I have had to make it write wetter because it didn't write as wet as I liked it to, but it's writing a lot better now, writing it to the point that I am liking it more, but I'm still really not used to fine nibs, so that's something I need to try and get used to, more fine nibs and more extra fine nibs. I tend to use more mediums or broad nibs, and then sometimes stub nibs as well. So that ink is in here is actually Montblanc Irish Green, but and I think that ink matches the colour green here on the body quite nicely. Now here's the other Khalid Voyager, and this is called the Yellow Dawn, and I had another Visconti Ducati Palacio with this, and I really liked the material, but it was a demonstrator, so I wanted to try and pick this one up if I could, and I found it on eBay. It was an Italian bookshop that also sold some pens, and it was new, and I bought it immediately along with the forest green as well, and I got a fairly good price for it. But this came with a medium nib, but this actually writes more drier and more thinner, I would say, than the fine nib does. Again, it's a 14 karat gold nib, it's a cartridge converter, but I do like this pen, and I've made it write a lot more wetter, and I've also actually more recently put in a Caran d'Ache Electric Orange into this pen. I think it probably writes slightly better. If that's a dry ink, I think it writes slightly better with a Sailor Gentle Apricot or Kinmakusai, but I have other pens inked up with those, so I didn't really want to try and duplicate those pens too much. And then the last pen on this tray is the Visconti Firenze Larva, and this is a stunning pen. And this is really what turned me on to a lot of the pens, the material that I got from the Atelier Lusso pens. Because if you look at this, it has this lovely, lovely effect going on here that you could just see here. It's almost like a topographical look down at the earth. And again, I really like this. Now this is what I call the Gen 1 Power Vac, and I'll show you why. So to start with, it's a 23 karat palladium nib. It's a medium nib, but if I unscrew this, that's the reason why. It's a Power Vac, but you have to unscrew the body first. And in the newer generation of Powervacs, you just unscrew the blind cap here. This blind cap doesn't actually open, so you can't do that on this pen. But it's a lovely pen. It has the Voyager style keel clip on it, and I have this inked up at the moment with Waterman inspired blue. So now on to the final pens tray. So these are pens 21 to 30. So left to right here, I have a Scribo again, and this is the Scribo 2, and again it has a medium flex nib, just like I showed you on the first tray of pens, which was the Noble Green version. This is a Cardinal Red, and again, this has a 14K or 14 carat medium flex nib, and it's made by the same nib that Omas used to have, the OM81 nib. And it has a lot of feedback, but a lot of good feedback to the nib. But it flexes a lot and is very bouncy. So this is a pen that I absolutely love and adore, and I will be getting more Scribos, you can guarantee that, because I really do love how these nibs write, and I think I will probably pick them all up in medium nibs, because this nib is absolutely gorgeous. And that is inked up with another Ackerman ink. I know I have a lot of Ackerman inks inked up, but this is Ackerman Dutch Masters Schellacken Van Jan Steen. And then I have a couple of Pinida, and these are Pinida Legrande Bellitzers, and this is the Malachite version, and you see it's a lovely soft mint green, and I decided I would actually ink this up with Diamine Soft Mint, and it's a perfect match for this pen. And it's a medium 14 carat nib. It has a little bit of flex, not as much as the Scribo does, but it is a lovely pen, and I love this material. It really is a lovely a pen. And then I also have the other pen inked up. This is again a Pinida Legrande Bellezza, and this is the Rhodolite model. And you can see here it's a lovely red that has some swirls in it. It really is quite lovely. Not as many swirls as the Malachite version. This I decided to get in a broad nib. It doesn't flex as much, but I find I can use this pen uncapped now or unposted. I used to post this cap because I felt I needed to, but I find now that I can write better with it unposted. The ink in here I've got, which I think is a perfect match for this colour, is Diamine Oxblood, and that's an ink that I bought a couple of years ago and I really haven't used much. I didn't like the ink back then, and I'm warming up to it now, so I've been writing with that quite a bit. And then we have a couple here of Leonardo. So we have this one, which is the Leonardo Oficina Italiana Momento Zero Positano Blue. Whew, that's quite a long name. But this I got in a broad nib. I did have issues to start with. Salvatore at Leonardo fixed those issues for me. The broad nibs did have at the time a little bit of baby's bottom going on, or actually quite a bit of baby's bottom. But they have now been fixed, and Salvatore has since sent me replacement nibs, and they write perfectly. So this is a steel nib, gold plated, and it's a broad nib, and I have this inked up with a new Ackerman ink. I wanted to get a light blue ink from Ackerman, something along the lines of Konpeki from Iroshizuku, or maybe Robert Oster Australian Sky, somewhere like around that sort of colour hue. And I bought Ackerman Passage Bleu, and I'd like that. I really do like that. So I have that inked up in that pen. And then another Ackerman ink I also picked up recently is Ackerman Vorhut, and it's a bit of a purpley mauve type. but it's a very dark ink. So I have it in this pen, and that's a Leonardo, again a Leonardo Oficina Italiana Momento Zero, and this is the horn version. Now, I have had this previously inked up with Montblanc Oyster Grey. I think this ink actually writes better in the pen, and it's a broad nib, and again it's a steel nib. I do like it. I love how it writes. And strange enough, I'm finding that although I only have 4 broad steel nibs from Leonardo, they are Bock nibs, and I only have one 14 karat gold nib in my other Leonardo, the Mediterraneo. I'm finding that these steel nibs actually have more flex or more bounce to them than the 14 karat gold nib does, which is kind of strange. But I do have some 14 and 18 karat nibs that are like nails and as stiff, if not stiffer than steel nibs. So I guess it's not much of a surprise, but it's just sometimes it happens that way. And there's another pen that I picked up at the London Pen Show, and this was the Etruria Corsani, and I just recently released a video last week on this, the unboxing and review video, and this really is a gorgeous pen. It's a limited edition run. It comes in this sand colour, a red colour and a blue colour, and this has a 14 karat gold nib, and it's made by Stipula. And I have this inked up with Montblanc Toffee Brown. Now, the strange thing about this is the ink window is on the outside of the pen here. And that did bother me initially looking at the original marketing photos when there was no ink in the pen. But having it inked up, it doesn't really bother me. But it does look a little bit out of the ordinary compared to maybe a normal pen with an ink window. And then I have this pen here, and this is an Atelier Lusso Andromeda. This is another broad nib, steel nib, and this is the Vulcan's Forge, and I really love this pen. And I have it inked up with Sailor Gentle Apricot, and you can see here the colours here. It's just absolutely stunning. This was a pen that I really wanted, and I've been writing a lot with recently, and I do like that. And also the Carina Black Ice, which has the Diamine coral inked up that I mentioned earlier. And then there's the Armando Simoni Club Bologna Extra Arco Brown, and this again is a pen that I do love a lot. I have this inked up with Akamon SBRE Brown, although previously it was Akamon Dutch Masters SBRE Brown, and prior to that it was Diamine SBRE Brown. So it is actually made by Diamine, it's just repackaged by Akamon. They were packaging them in the Dutch Masters 120ml bottles. They've now switched to the regular 60ml bottles. And again, this has, like the other Bolognas, has a number 8 size nib. It's a lovely nib, and I just love the size of these and the weight and how these Bolognas write. So that has a lovely brown ink inked up. And if you cannot get Akamon SBRE Brown, there is another brown that is almost identical, if not absolutely identical, made by Diamine, called Diamine Ochre. So if Akamon SBRE Brown has sold out when you're watching this video, or it's just going to be too costly to buy internationally, and you can get Diamine Ochre, then that is almost a perfect match. But I have both inks, and I like both inks just as much. Like, there is hardly any difference between the two inks, and but they are lovely brown inks. And then the final two pens, I have the Visconti Homo Sapiens London Fog. Now this is actually getting quite low now, and this is a pen that I like. Now I decided to do something differently. I swapped the stub nib that I've had in here for over a year, and I've put in a fine nib, the original fine nib that it came with, and I've been trying to write with that, and it's a nice writer, but again I'm really not that into fines at the moment. It's a 23 carat palladium nib, but the pen is absolutely gorgeous, and this still remains one of my favourite pens that I have. I think I might be putting the stub nib back on there because I do like that stub nib on there. But maybe I'll try and keep the fine nib on there until the end of the year, and then maybe in 2019 swap it out. And then the final pen here. You've seen this showcase a lot, and this is a Visconti Medici Il Magnifico, and again this is a lovely pen, solid silver cap and section and blind cap, filling knob, and the body is made of solid marble, and this is a beautiful pen. It actually comes with Visconti Bordeaux, and that I have inked in that pen. It's a very weighty pen at 70 grams, but it's a pen that I find is so comfortable to write with. It's a beautiful pen, and I love it. I really do love that pen. If you like heavy pens, that is a pen to get for sure. And then I think I may have mentioned, but the Waterman inspired blue is what's inked up in the London Fog, but I'll be cleaning that out. And then the Medici Il Magnifico is Visconti Bordeaux, and that's got a 23 carat medium nib on the pen. So that's it. That's the 30 pens that I have inked up. I need to ink up a lot more pens for December. I actually have the London Pen Club only less than a week away now, so I need to reduce my pens, and I tend to normally ink up more pens when it comes to the pen clubs, but I'm going to try not to, and I've been trying not to most of these months, but I will probably just take a number of the pens that are already inked up, or just re-ink those pens maybe, but I think one of my New Year's resolutions is going to be to ink up less pens. It's incredibly difficult, but in hindsight and in my own defence, it's only 55 pens is about a third of my collection, so it's not as though it's half of my pen collection. That said, 55 pens is still a lot of pens to have inked up. Obviously, I've now got down to 30 pens here, but still 30 pens is a lot of pens, and I need to get down to below 30 and into the 20s. I'm having a hard job trying to do that, but if anybody has any good ideas on what to do, then do let me know. I just love the variety of ink colours, the variety of pen colours or nib sizes to write with, and I know it's very quick and easy to ink up a new pen that hasn't been inked, but it's even quicker just to pick the pen out of the drawer and not have to go through the hassle of inking it up. So that's partly the reason why I have my pens inked up all the time. So there it is. That's the currently inked for this month, November 2018. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.